Hi, welcome to Cyber Guidance. In this video, I would be showing you a very important new conditional access policy that is very helpful for security analysts. And you might want to ask me, how is this conditional access policy important? So let's say, for example, a user got compromised and that user has been flagged as a high risk user. What this conditional access policy does is that it automatically remediates this user. So it resets the user's password, it resets the user multi-factor authentication, it also resets the user's token sessions. So the sessions are no longer valid. And all these are being done automatically in real time. So you as a security analyst, let's say you're busy with incidents and then you want to triage, you want to investigate. While the user has been flagged as a high risk, Microsoft just does its thing, or the conditional access policy, it's remedies this user for you, and the user becomes safe, clean, and can continue working. So, without wasting much time, let's create this conditional access policy together. I would also show a sample or show a demo by using a PowerShell script to force a user as a high risk user. And then we can now see how this conditional access policy gets into effect and how helpful it is. So let's create this policy together. You click on conditional access, create new policy, and then we can give it a name. Microsoft Managed Policy Remediation. And then in this case, I would be applying this policy to just one specific user since it's a demo. And in a normal security operations, either you want to apply it to all users or to specific group of users. And target resources would be all resources. Condition when user becomes high risk. Grant, you want to tick this require risk remediation, and that automatically selects the require authentication strength. You click on select, and the session also gets automatically ticked, the sign-in frequency. And then you want to enable the policy. So now that we've created this conditional access, next thing I want to do is that I want to use a PowerShell script to force the user which the policy is being applied to become a high risk. Therefore, we can now see what happens when a user becomes a high risk user. So I have a script ready, which I would, this is a PowerShell script, and I will just run this on Azure here. So the PowerShell right here on the Azure portal. So I would copy this, paste, and this is going to install all the modules and graph which is being required. Next thing, I want to connect the Microsoft graph with the identity risk user, read write all. So this takes a couple of minutes because it needs to install all the packages. And as you can see here, there is a user ID. So the user which I apply the policy to, this is the user ID. So I'm forcing this user to become a high risk or to become compromised. So we can now see what happens when or how effective this conditional access policy is. So that is done. Now I need to log in using a device code. And that's because I'm just doing this manually. I'm forcing a user to become a high risk. On the normal security settings, maybe the user has been compromised through phishing or credential has been stolen, for example. So this is done, and then I will just copy this. And now we click enter. So this takes a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes to get effective, to get the user being compromised. So this user, John, which we apply the policy to, would become compromised. And that takes some minutes. So I just received a notification that this user has been confirmed compromised. And here it says user at risk detected. So now we can now check if this test user is indeed compromised. So I would refresh, and yep, here it says view risky user information, and it says admin confirmed user compromised, and that's because of the PowerShell script which I used to force this test user as a high risk. And now we can also check if the conditional access policy is actually working. So I'm going to go back to this account. Okay, I'm going to try to sign in again. So yes, you see, it forced me to update my password. And this is actually amazing because in a real world scenario, let's say for example, a user has been actually compromised, maybe through phishing, and the password is stolen, the token session also has been stolen, and then the threat actor tries to re-authenticate with these valid credentials. Because of the conditional access policy, the session is no longer valid, and that password would also not be valid because now the user has been prompted to update his password, and the session is also no longer valid. And why is this beneficial or important for you as a security analyst? And that's because you no longer have to go through that stress of forcing the password reset, calling the user and manually revoking the user sessions and reset password. Because there are some times where you have so many alerts to triage. You need to call, you need to respond to incidents, but the conditional access policy has now done all this for you, reset the password and also the user session and also the multi-factor authentication sessions. And what you just have to do now is just go ahead, triage, and after you've done all your analysis, you can then inform the user that has been compromised. But at least the user can continue with whatever he's doing. So if we check the audit logs, you should see change user password, updates, refresh token session, password self-service done. And yeah, this is amazing. So I hope you learned something new today. Kindly like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you.